Hello indie game fans, I'll admit, one of the reasons why I got into indie games is because I was looking for value, which naturally drew me to roguelites, where small investments of $15 to $20 could net you hundreds of hours of gameplay, making the cost per hour of entertainment very attractive indeed. So here's a look at some of the longest indie games that will keep you entertained for hours to come. We begin with No Man's Sky, the definition of an infinite title due to its procedural generation engine, generating more than 18 quintillion planets, or 2 to the power of 64 to be exact, and promises that forever game experience. Now this comes with an asterisk since I believe they were partially funded by Sony, but for a relatively small team to make this experience is pretty amazing. All the disappointment of the initial launch aside, it seems that the developers have made good on their earlier promises, adding things like sandworms to the game, but also making it really weird with living organic ships that you can enter and pilot. Things like player housing and base building will keep you entertained, with a whole bunch of free content patches as well, so it's one that fits the bill, although it's number 10 since it has the highest price point on the list. There's something to be said about the city building title, and I think that the most successful entry to date has been Cities Skylines, allowing you to build modern cities, and I have seen my fair share of some really impressive creations, although it may have started to show its age. I've seen videos of people spending hours trying to tweak traffic to get it right, with some amazing replicas of entire cities and countries being created with this, so certainly an impressive piece of work. However, since it's published by Paradox, it does have that unwieldy DLC sprawl, where the cost of everything sums up to quite a hefty price tag, but divided by the number of hours, still worth it in my opinion. Do expect to see a fair number of sandbox builders on this list, since the freedom of creation and expression can result in terribly compelling gameplay loops where you just spend hours upon hours tinkering and perfecting your design, and such is the case with Besiege, one of my favourite physics puzzle games of all time. While the main campaign has you building medieval siege weapons to accomplish a certain objective, there's plenty of fun to be had in Sandbox or the Steam Workshop as well. Some truly wondrous creations there, from Pacific Rim's Gypsy Danger, The Enterprise, and AT-ST, various Transformers and more, where you can get lost in the creation with this. Well-crafted isometric action RPGs are extremely compelling games due to the loot treadmill, where the best in the business have gotten many people hook, line and sinker, with Grim Dawn being my pick since titles like Path of Exile or Diablo are not so indie. Crate Entertainment comprised of developers who made Titan Quest, so this game has a similar class progression system, but all the shiny loot will certainly keep you playing, with multiple character builds to try so you can go wild. It had a number of DLCs over the years, with the most recent being Forgotten Gods in 2019, being the equivalent of old school expansions like Lord of Destruction, so if you're into the genre and somehow have not played this yet, certainly one to get. Of Of course, I have to mention Factorio in a list like this, since it's one of the most compelling games on the market, but perhaps for a specific type of person. It's all about building and automation, needing to tweak and troubleshoot production chains in a massive factory of your own, where a lot of the fun is discovering the game's systems for yourself. Once you're done with a single playthrough, you can do it all over again with another procedurally generated planet, and that's not to mention one of the most vibrant modding scenes out there, which means plenty of meat on this bone. I had a tough time choosing a good trailer to show off KENSHI, but no matter what I picked, the visuals are admittedly very crap, but this is intentionally done and nails what the developer is going for, which I believe to be a 90s CRPG. Similar to games like Fallout and Baldur's Gate in concept, this is a massive RPG experience, but adds in a party system and open world exploration, which means plenty of content to get immersed and lost in. Multiple playstyles and specializations will keep things fresh for multiple playthroughs, so if you can get over the look, this comes recommended. As mentioned in the introduction, a very natural fit for games that can keep you occupied for hours is the roguelite genre, having procedural generation, permadeath and perhaps some meta progression, often mixed in with punishing difficulty, which will keep you playing in attempting to beat the game. Take your pick from titles like Dead Cells, Enter the Gungeon, Spelunky or Nuclear Throne, but my pick has to be The Binding of Isaac. As mentioned before, I don't really get along with this game but do admire it from a distance, but its influence on the space is undoubtable. I'm talking about the modern version of Rebirth rather than the original version, with the DLCs of Afterbirth and Afterbirth Plus, and the upcoming Repentance adding and extending the life of this. I think that the most famous example of a long-running Let's Play series is from Northern Lion, currently on episode 1929 as of recording, so plenty of mileage on this one. One of the cheekiest and most interesting indie games of last year is The Longing, having been referred to as the game of the pandemic, since it's an adventure game that takes 400 days to complete. You play as a Shade, who is the last servant of the king of an underground kingdom where your lord has fallen asleep and will only wake 400 days later, and your task is to wait for this to happen. Interestingly, this title runs even if you do not play, where you can buy the game, start it up and come back 400 days later, so a very meta idle game in some sense. However, you can totally explore the underground caverns or even sit and read classic literature books within the game, all while waiting for time to pass, but do be warned that the Shade does move very slowly and may be frustrating to some. Fascinating due to the design alone, if you like weird, quirky titles or like to know more about game design, this is recommended. Many people have reductively made the comment that Terraria is 2D Minecraft, which is a very surface level comparison and definitely not the same thing, but it does share many of those same elements that makes this so compelling. A crafting exploration title with boss fights, the sheer amount of content in this, with enemy types, biomes, things to build, secrets and so forth is mind-boggling, and at such a low entry price of $10, this is a no-brainer. Building and exploring with friends makes it even better, but the multiplayer systems are pretty robust. And once you have conquered the base game, there is an expert mode which is much more challenging, but does have exclusive content, so you can do it all over again. one of the best-selling and longest-lasting indie games of all time, with the 10-year anniversary coming up, its longevity precedes its reputation and earns a well-deserved spot. Many people come into Stardew Valley thinking, oh, what a lovely looking farming game, and I'll just spend a couple of days to check it out. And uh-oh. Fair warning, this is one of the most compelling titles to nail that one more day gameplay loop, where I've had friends who never played Harvest Moon completely fall in love and got sucked into this game. Multiple farm layouts, different romanceable NPCs, constant free content patches, and such an extensive modding community that gives this even more life. Shout out to Stardew Valley Expanded, and since it's one of my favorite indie games of all time, it takes the number 1 spot. Playing with friends does often extend the life of a game as well, so for more co-op titles, check out this video above and I'll see you after the jump.